Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. As the world watches new fault lines emerge between global powers, the Korean Peninsula is no longer just reacting to regional tensions, it's actively reshaping them. From North Korea's open military support for Russia in Ukraine to the first diplomatic appearance of Kim Jong-un's daughter Kim Jus, Pyongyang is sending deliberate signals about its strategic intent and succession. At the same time, Russia and China are aligning more openly with North Korea politically, militarily, and diplomatically, challenging Western pressure and sanctions. And all of this comes just weeks before South Korea decides on its next leadership under the shadow of a rapidly shifting security order. For a closer look into the moving dynamics, we are joined in the studio by Kim Mok-yeon, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute for National Security Strategy. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And also joining us online is Frank Januzzi, President and CEO of the Marine and Mike Mansfield Foundation. Great to see you again.
Good evening.
So let's start a discussion with Dr. Go. On Russia's Victory Day, May 9th, Chairman Kim Jong-un paid a visit to Russian embassy in North Korea and said that if Ukraine is left unattended, South Korea might also grow recklessly brave. What do you think is the underlying message, he's aiming to project both to domestically and also to the international audiences?
Well, I think it's all about emphasizing the alignment, the strategic alignment that both countries, Russia and North Korea, are pursuing right now. And essentially what Kim Jong-un is doing, both internationally and domestically, is a justification for North Korea's participation in the Ukraine war. So we know that North Korea and Russia both denied or tried to hide the fact that North Korea had a very significant military presence in in Russia, fighting against the Ukrainian forces, and at the same time, this I think created some burden and potential for criticism internationally for, especially against Russia, because Russia was bringing in North Korea, a rogue state, under sanctions by the United Nations for developing weapons of mass destruction to essentially broaden the war, and I think that's the reason why North Korea's intervention was hidden or denied for a considerable amount of time. Mm-hmm. But now we know that both Russia and North Korea are making North Korea's participation official. So now there's a necessity to come up with a rationalization for North Korea's role. And essentially, North Korea is depicting their role in the war in Ukraine mostly as a defensive, saying that there's a tension, and Russia is fighting Ukraine, and then Kim Jong-un is describing this war that Russia is engaged in against Ukraine as a part of a broader confrontation that North Korea is also a player in, which is a global confrontation between the authoritarian axis, such as Russia, North Korea, China, and Iran, against the global liberal states, the Western Europe, United States, Canada, and other countries in the world, so including Korea. So I think this is a message that essentially it's a political message to justify North Korea's military role that we see today.
Right. Then building on that justification, Dr. Go, Kim Jong-un has also said that their troop deployment fulfills obligations under the Treaty on Comprehensive Strategic Partnership with Russia, reinforcing the image of a formal alliance. Why do you think he's putting spotlight to this right now?
Oh, well, so the reason is because if we see the language, read the language of this Comprehensive Partnership Pact, there's some clause about mutual assistance in case of conflict. So both Russia and North Korea, they essentially promise or commit to helping each other in case of conflict that breaks out and that affects one of the signatories' country. So in this case, North Korea is helping Russia, especially in the region of Kursk. So I think this is very noteworthy because North Koreans are not fighting in Ukraine proper or like in the Ukraine territories that are under Russian occupation, at least not officially yet. But when it comes to Kursk, which is original Russian territory that the Ukrainians invaded in order to burn the front and then essentially divert the resources that the Russians are putting to pressure on Ukrainian forces in Ukraine proper. So in that sense, in a way, it is completely legal for North Korea under this pact to assist Russians in Kursk because Kursk is on Russian territory. So there should be no controversy about North Korean intervention in this war. So I think this is the reason why North Koreans are highlighting this fact. So this is a defensive warfare that North Korea is essentially doing, essentially like living up to its obligation as a signatory to this pact because Russia is under threat.
Right, so it's going back to the, circling back to their stance that they're defending themselves. Now, beyond strategic rhetoric, the optics of the visit also stood out. Kim has been accompanied by his daughter Kim Jus, marking her first appearance at an official diplomatic event. Mr. Januzzi, do you think this could signal a stronger establishment of her role as Kim Jong-un's successor? And also, why do you think Pyongyang chose this moment, again, in front of the Russian diplomatic corps for her debut?
Well, it may well signal an enhanced role for Kim Jus in the future. As to succession, I think it's really too soon to say. But what I'm most struck by her appearance is that governing North Korea in today's world under Kim Jong-un is really a family business. And this is a marked contrast to the way that his grandfather or even his father ran the DPRK. And by bringing Kim Jus into the inner circle, by showcasing her now on the world stage, he is undoubtedly signaling that she will be a player for years to come, whether as his successor, I think too soon to say. But remember that it is quite rare for women to assume senior ranks in the North Korean government. Only Choi Song-hui, the foreign minister, is a woman among the top ranks of the North Korean government. But now she's being joined essentially by Kim Jus. And I think that this means that what is most important for Kim Jong-un is not the gender of his successor, but the bloodline. Kim Jus qualifies to be a successor because she is Kim Jong-un's daughter. But as to whether they've made that decision, I'm skeptical. I think what's most important here, however, is that you see Kim Jus maturing on the global stage and clearly rising in the ranks as an advisor to her father, even on policy matters. And I think that that's a sign of her maturation and her growth on the global stage.
Right. So indeed, Chua's appearance wasn't just symbolic. It may be laying the groundwork for, future presence, her presence in the future. Now, meanwhile, Dr. Go, Kim's recent flurry of on-site inspections on multiple super large, multiple rocket launchers has drawn attention, especially because these systems could, resemble nuclear capabilities as well. Do you think these developments would be aimed at Russia as part of, arms cooperation? And also, how far do you see North Korea-Russia's military cooperation expanding?
Well, I think the North Korea-Russian military cooperation is expanding very fast and, very broadly speaking, in many different types. Weapon systems are being developed right now with Russia's assistance. We are seeing the fruits of the cooperation right now. So the recently unveiled so-called super large multiple launch rocket system might be a product of a Russian technological transfer, but then it's more likely that it represents more of a indigenous effort on the part of North Korea. But there are other systems that North Koreans have reviewed in recent days that are clearly indicate that there's a Russia's helping hand behind it, such as the airborne warning and the control system, AWACS, the plane that has a big radar on top of the plane, and then we have seen this in the TV footage recently. Also, there's the recently unveiled guided missile destroyer, Chaehyun. These are all systems that the North Koreans can neither afford or able to develop on their own. So clearly, Russians are essentially, it's clear that the Russians are transferring technology and even some weapons themselves as a compensation for or reward for North Korea's assistance in the war in Ukraine. Having said that, though, I think the reason why we are seeing this flurry of showcasing of new weapon systems, revelations, is because North Korea is completing or reaching the 5-year term of their so-called 5-year military modernization plan. So by next year, it's likely that North Koreans are going to have another party congress where they have to review their achievements in the previous 5 years. And because the last time in the January 2021, they had the 8th Party Congress, Kim Jong-un had promised to achieve a very high level of military development. So now that they are nearing another Party Congress date, I think Kim Jong-un is creating essentially a ground to credit himself for all these major achievements that I think in a way happened only because the Russians are helping North Korea, and then Russians are helping North Korea because Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. Had Russia not done so, it's likely that North Korea wouldn't have achieved this high level of military development.
Right, so the latest achievement is largely helped by Russian support. Now, and this cooperation, of course, is very visible and also concerning. Now, after months of denial, Russia has now actually begun publicly showcasing footage of North Korean troops engaged in military operations as well. Mr. Januzzi, what do you think is driving this sudden openness and also a sort of a promotion of bilateral military ties?
Well, thanks for the question. This is very clearly an orchestrated move by both Russia and North Korea working together to celebrate this alliance. They probably kept quiet as long as they did because of uncertainties about how things would play out on the battlefield. The success of Russia and North Korean forces driving Ukrainians out of the Kursk region in Russia now gives them an opportunity to celebrate the role of North Korean forces, which was, I think, in the end, quite significant in terms of providing additional manpower to Russia at a time when they really were strapped. And I think that one of the most important elements of this is Putin's obvious gratitude to Kim Jong-un for providing the manpower as well as weaponry that helped Russia to recapture a large swath of territory which had been taken by Ukrainian forces. This has improved Russia's position in the negotiating table as well as on the battlefield. And this North Korean-Russian axis, if you will, is now ready, I think, to go global. They are willing to celebrate it, to announce it to the world. It also gives Kim Jong-un the thanks that he needs from a grateful Russia to explain to his own people and to the extent necessary, the military, the cost of this intervention, because there have been, in all likelihood, thousands of North Korean soldiers wounded in combat, and Kim Jong-un needs to show something for it. And what he's getting is support from Russia on the global stage, support for sanctions relief, military support, as Dr. Go has outlined, and now also a political pat on the back.
Right. So Russia is definitely moving from denial to display, and this would mark a significant shift in how both nations want the world to see their alignment. Now, so on the heels of this publicity, Dr. Go, there's been new satellite analysis that major upgrades are underway at North Korea's Cheongjin port. And Kim Jong-un has been seen inspecting a new warship matching the size of a recently launched Choi Hyun-ho destroyer. What's the strategic aim behind this accelerated naval buildup?
So I don't see any clear strategic aim or benefit that North Koreans can derive from this naval buildup. For North Korea to, in order for North Korea to catch up with the naval capability of just not only the allies of the United States, such as Japan and the United States as well, but later on to catch up with the naval capability of South Korea alone will take decades. And just having a brand new guided missile destroyer, such as Cheon, is not going to be enough. They will at least build 2 more in order to have a significant presence in the seas bordering the Korean Peninsula. So in that sense, I think this is strategically speaking, it's a mistake on the part of North Korea because guided missile destroyers such as the one that North Korea has showcased is very expensive to build and also even more expensive to maintain. So, so I think the only reason why North Koreans are developing this is not a precondition for dialogue or either with South Korea or the United States. This is just a political it's a political, I mean, you know, sorry, it's a way for Kim Jong-un to claim political credit. As I outlined before, Kim Jong-un wants to celebrate another success, quote unquote, by revealing a brand new weapon system, which North Korea likely got from, I mean, the technology itself, but they probably received it from Russia. So this is there's no major long-lasting military significance from this kind of naval buildup. But on the other hand, if North Koreans are indeed committed to develop a ocean-going navy from present to the future, they could do so. But then but it's a very risky option for North Korea because they could possibly go bankrupt economically by investing so much in their naval capability. So in that sense, I think this likely constitutes a one-time event for North Korea, so that again to essentially celebrate the Kim Jong-un's achievement.
Right, so a show of political strength domestically.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Now, so this military assertiveness is also being backed diplomatically. On May 8th, Presidents Putin and Xi Jinping issued a joint statement urging to end sanctions and pressure on North Korea. Now, Mr. Januzzi, considering China's previously more restrained stance, what explains this recent diplomatic alignment?
Well, I believe that Beijing is essentially bowing to reality. Russia has clearly decided to ignore UN sanctions restricting arms support for North Korea and all forms of economic engagement with North Korea. And faced with that reality and risking losing much of their influence over Pyongyang, if Russia were able to essentially replace China as North Korea's chief patron. Now, the Chinese have made a pragmatic shift. They've long been skeptical of the efficacy of sanctions on North Korea in terms of bringing North Korea to the bargaining table, but they're now choosing to publicly align themselves with Russia and North Korea in a call for sanctions relief. I think that we must not overlook the influence of Donald Trump's election in the United States on this decision as well. President Trump has indicated his desire to engage in diplomacy with North Korea. I think setting the stage for that diplomatically, Russia and China are wishing to show deep solidarity with North Korea so as to empower the North Koreans to strike a hard bargaining position if and when Kim Jong-un sits down again with President Trump. So you see a strengthening of the Russia-China-North Korean alignment, even at a time when U.S. alliance management with both South Korea and Japan has been complicated by the demands of the Trump administration on its allies to do more, as well as the president's own expressed dissatisfaction with the asymmetries involved in the U.S. security commitments to both Japan and South Korea. So it's China being pragmatic, but also China wishing to set the stage potentially for diplomacy between North Korea and the United States that might see a reduction of tension and a reduction of North Korea's isolation on the global stage.
Right. So taken together, this North Korea, China, Russia front seems to be becoming harder to dismiss, and it seems like a deeper cooperation moving forward. Now, finally, to Dr. Go, South Korea's presidential election, of course, is now less than 3 weeks away, and amid this shifting regional dynamics, what do you think the next incoming administration should prioritize in shaping its foreign policies?
Well, I think the priority will be for the next administration to recognize that the North Korea issue has become internationalized. There's a tendency in South Korea to view North Korea, our relations with North Korea, as a so-called inter-Korean relations framework. So obviously, dialogue between the two Koreas falls under the inter-Korean relations category, but the repercussions of what North Korea is doing is global in scope right now. So not just in the North Korea's quest to become a nuclear state, but also we are seeing in Russia, North Korea's conventional capabilities also now has global implications. So in that sense, we need to view North Korea in the not just in the peninsula context, but also the regional context at the very least. So that means that we have to pay very close attention to what North Korea is doing in Russia, as well as the alignment that we are seeing beyond these two countries, Russia and North Korea, but also with China. So, and then that means that when China is going to have an issue with the United States, especially when it comes to the interstate relations, what I mean is what we refer as interstate relations, the relationship between China and Taiwan, and the potential conflict between the two major powers over Taiwan, is going to have Korean Peninsula implications. So these are all these factors that we have to take into consideration as we formulate our new North Korea policy. So I think this is it's a must priority. The second priority is our relations and as well as our stance towards China. I think also President Trump's administration formulates a more systematic China policy. I think the United States is going to assign or ask South Korea to have a more prominent role in the regional security affairs. And that probably means that we have to have some sort of a clear stance regarding China. Mm-hmm. I think because the linkage between China and North Korea, we have to link North Korea with China. So we should view China not in isolation, but in the regional context. So this systematic integration of our regional policy is going to be a top priority for the next South Korean administration.
Right, so accepting that this issue is not only just for South Korea, we need to take into consideration reactions from key players would be very important for the next administration. Right, and we will take close tabs on that front, and we will have to end our discussion right here for today. Dr. Go, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And also, Mr. Jinuji, thank you for making time for us tonight.
Thank you very much.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Till then, stay informed and engaged.